Oh, what a week it has been. The 9th of the month, Firefox, the copy I'm using, full-on crashed in ways that I'm not able to really understand. It made things disappear, fully corrupted itself. And then by the next day on the 10th, I'd fully rebuilt it. No biggie, right? Well, it's because I had a backup copy and all I did was get it going just enough to grab the files I cared about, make backup copies, and then erase it and rebuild it because I use portable apps and make it to where it's almost impossible for this to be a problem. Now, granted, if you use a hard drive that's electromechanical or solid state, they can develop bad sectors and the operating system won't know about it and the drive won't be able to detect it and you can have bad writes and reads. So when you extract your new version of your browser, you rename the old one, extract the new one, make sure it works perfectly, import everything, and then delete the old one. And then run a scan disk to make sure everything's perfect, or check disk. Everything came out fine. Then a couple of days later on the 12th, add-ons and plugins crashed. And I posted a video by the 14th explaining, it was actually done in the previous few days, or previous day, how to just make it to where the web browser just ignores that Mozilla wants you to not use their product anymore. That it doesn't want you to use the older plugins because they can't verify it. I just disabled it, and I did a video on it that ends in 80ZA. And then literally 24 hours later, I did an experiment where I was modifying the original Rust legacy that's based on Unity game engine. And it uses a specific file called Assembly-CSharp.dll. And this is used under many, many games. And what it is when you use a Microsoft product to write your programs, you can write this DLL. It's a dynamic link library. It's a collection of programs you kind of mush together. And it'll name it Assembly-CSharp.dll as just the standard default name. And you can dismantle it and edit it. And all I wanted to do was find out where the entries were for certain things for the mapping. Because I found out after that point that if I grabbed the one from the newer version and put it in the older version, it would work. It doesn't matter where it's located. The point is, under the game engine's directory structure, if you have one with an extra feature, it'll probably be buried in there. I also found that you could look up the lookup tables to make the little dot on the screen smaller. So, okay, this is a fairly common thing. I wonder if this game that was written back in 2013, somebody wrote at one time or another something where I could go through and just change a couple of parameters. Well, it's a compiled executable, or stack of them. But if you're deliberately making it to where it's easy to mod these, which everybody is, if you haven't noticed, people are able to run this old video game, Rust Legacy, without it actually using the same parameters it used to be. What they'll do is they'll bring it into, Visual Studio or whatever, some product, decompile it, which just means pull it apart again. Find the entries, change them, and then recompile it. It won't match with the original. It'll have a different hash, but it'll still work. But if you're only changing, and I'm not kidding about this, a byte, it's literally 1 byte, to make it to where the dot goes from being 40 pixels down to 3 or 2. This should be easy, right? This dot pointer equals new texture 2D and then some parameters that I don't understand. But I do know that I can futz with it and just save it and see if it works. After all, it's just a game. What could go wrong? Oh no, the editor demands that I do an update, a minor one, that it says wasn't done to my operating system. I'm using Windows 7. Now, Windows 7, if you're not aware of it, before you start typing, is designed on purpose to be missing things. The update path to put in all the patches has always had errors in it. You do things in the way you're told, they don't work. Microsoft Corporation knows that. Even if you look up old archived copies, which they would love to erase, where they told you by accident the correct way to do it, the correct way doesn't work anymore. Because the only available version of Update 20 isn't the same one that came out when it worked. It's got a booby trap, it's sabotaged, it's sandbagged. This is on purpose because I'm running Windows 7. They owe me no money or warranty. Never would, even if I bought it brand new. They can just sell you something that doesn't work and you can't do anything about it. Because corporations write laws now. Corporations have freedom of speech by buying politicians. Citizens United. Go look it up. So I was going to edit a couple of things like this.Pointer.LoadImage array number 2. That's for loading the map that's in the directory structure in Rust, the one I meddle with, the one I alter. And I'm like, okay, are there any things here that I could read? Well, all the readers that will take it apart and show me tantalizingly that all I have to do is install an editor for it. But all of the editors you can currently get, they require you update the middleware, the little utilities and components. And it's Visual Studio or DirectX or some other middleware program that always includes in it, if you read the disclaimer, that they acknowledge that it might break your computer. And don't install this unless there's something wrong. And always back up your files. And of course, as you already know, if you watch my channel, everything I have is backed up from here to hell and gone. But there's broken and then there's tantalizingly functional. So on the day I did that, and the time and date stamp are kind of ambiguous, but by 10:57 p.m., I could only boot into a recovery console. It wouldn't let me go to the menu anymore. It then started changing which partitions were active. I managed to get the drive to go back to having an active partition. If you're not aware of it, on Windows 7, it'll make on your main drive a partition containing specific data, and the other partition will be the one that boots. And during this update that's about making the computer able to do another editor, that's all. It's adding on 4 megabytes of data. It wasn't supposed to mess with the boot sector. It chose to treat this as an operating system update, and it's not compatible with Windows 7. It was, but every old copy has been removed from the internet, and Microsoft's website, official copy of it, totally signed and dated, everything's coded correctly, stopped my computer from working, and executed a series of things that made it to where it was impossible to get into. Now, I'm a geek. I have literally a stack, it's right over here, a stack of thumb drives loaded up with every kind of boot setup I could find. And I had trouble. I do this for a living for 20 years almost. I had trouble getting my own computer to work. Anyway, from 10:57 p.m., where it would only do that, to the final I started installing at 11:24 p.m., this is me going in and fixing it to where it would let me reinstall Windows 7. It was fighting that. And now at 1:28 a.m. through 6:55 a.m. on the 16th, which, if you can't figure it out, that's just a few hours after the 11:24 p.m. That's how long it took me to just get Windows 7 to install. This thing was kicking and fighting. Let's see, that's 7 for 8 hours, for 8 full hours. And then I had to do Service Pack 2. And then now, on today's date, let's hit the F5 button. Yeah, it's the 17th, and we're at 10 a.m. It works. It's 10:31 right now. So it's only right now that I've rebooted a bunch of times that I've done the following. Telling it to stop trying to update itself because it will download another booby-trapped update. Blocking Microsoft's website for probably the 5th time in a year so that it can't call home. I have had to because Firefox sabotaged itself in the same week. Coincidence? I've had to block Mozilla.org from being able to install anything. I'm going to go through, I was in the process, by the way, of doing a video on how to do the telemetry kill. So it couldn't do this again. And I do this, I've done this ever since Windows 7 was disavowed by Microsoft Corporation. I have to do that all over again. Well, I already did it. This is an amazingly large amount of work. Just because a program that was never supposed to touch the operating system, was only supposed to update one subsystem on it for writing programs, went out of its way to ignore the version of the operating system I'm using. It's Windows 7 Service Pack 2 with all the updates in it that it would let me do. It decided, oh no, there's a missing update back here. Yeah, there's a 2012 update apparently that was broken, that never worked. Oh, I'll force install that thing. And a bunch of other crap it tried to do without alerting me to this, because it's a prerequisite that was never mentioned anywhere. And when I looked up that update afterwards, and before, it said nothing about it. But when I looked up stuck in recovery console, that update came up more than any other. So yeah, corporation sabotages random people trying to literally edit a file or write a program or anything. And it'll keep getting worse. It'll do this forever. That's 7 days of my life thrown down the shitter. And today it's 10:34 right now. I'm not dealing with a computer that's currently schizophrenic. Well, why don't you update? Would you like to see the blue screen in a 3D zoom or something? Well, why don't you update to Windows 10? You mean the operating system people haven't figured out how to completely tame and beat down and dominate? I had to load, I don't even know how many things on here still, to get it to stop doing shit like constantly putting the sound scheme back in where it makes a lot of noise. Constantly alerting anybody within earshot if I unplug my headphones, God help me, then I'm running specifically Windows 7 and what specific version. Yeah, that's the reason it does the noise. That's why if you turn off sounds, it'll turn them back on. That's why if you turn off themes, they'll reinstall against your will. Because it tells everybody in the room everything they need to know about your computer. This has been known for a long time. You might have noticed geeks removing this shit called personalizations that you didn't pick. If I put up my own thumbnails and my own stuff, like my own my icon for my login, for my admin account is literally a black square. I use a black background, a white background, and the cornflower blue one that comes with the default Windows install, so this is looking as ambiguous as possible. I don't mention all the hacks that have been put into it. Yes, they are compatible, shut up, to make the damn thing able to run programs, because the Windows 8 update never sabotaged Windows 8, although right now it probably does, but I have a copy of it on a DVD burned, and I used that, and all I did was tell it, ignore the install version, put it on. I haven't put that one on here yet. Probably won't need to at this point. I built my own Service Pack 2 equivalent by doing that, because I let it update the operating system one time, and then when there was a crash from that, I just didn't use it anymore, and I just used Service Pack 2. Yes, this was updated. Yes, it was updated completely. Yes, it was. Yes, everything you bring up. But you said, yes, I said some things wouldn't install, like Visual Basic something or other. The reason it wouldn't is it was sabotaged. It never worked. When you look up some of these, they've never had a functioning install. It always fails. Yes, I know. Whatever you're going to say, I've heard it a billion times. At the time, I was doing a video on how to do the finishing up the fix for Firefox crashing, and I was also doing a legacy Rust hack vid, and they got deleted, all because the operating system chose violence. And it will do it again, and I know that. And that's why I don't ever throw my DVDs away. I have a DVD, I have a CD-ROM official with an installer for DOS 62 and Windows 3.1 on it that I'm not afraid to whip out. And yeah, I did a lot of the work I did by running a Windows XP bootable CD just to get updates and fixes. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. that was my week. Goodbye.